Good day everyone. Welcome to my lesson. Today I'm gonna discuss about technology in teaching for understanding. This lesson explores the concept of understanding on how technology supports the practice of performance perspective of understanding. Technology has changed all aspects of society including education. In teaching, technology offers options for incorporating variety into lessons, integrates as many senses in learning as possible, provides teachers with resources to provide differentiated instruction. When you're teaching for understanding using technologies, your goal is to provide opportunities for the students' thinking and meaning to engage in creative thinking and meaning making that will ultimately result to performance of understanding. Unique capabilities and features of technology. Technology has its unique capabilities and features that highly support teaching for understanding. First, it offers limitless opportunities for students. Here, students can express and demonstrate the progression of their performances that measures understanding, followed by the use of educational games. This is a classic example wherein it shows progression in performances because of its trial and error treatment and engage in problem solving. Those previously mentioned are the unique capabilities and features of technology. We need technology in every classroom and every student and teacher's hand because it is the pen and paper of our time and it is the lens through which we experience much of our world. That was according to David Warlick. Teaching requires an understanding of how each individual learns. As teachers, we should know the strengths and weaknesses of our pupils or students, or we should know their different abilities. Next, teachers must be able to mesh their life experiences with the curriculum. And technology is the bridge between the teacher and the students, especially nowadays. Its utilization in class is an indicator of what education will be like for future generations, meaning it's becoming more innovative. What is understanding? It is defined as the knowledge and ability to judge a particular situation or subject, and a willingness to understand people's behavior and forgive them. In addition to this definition, understanding in general is called as a performance perspective on understanding. Why educate for understanding? Regardless of what teachers teach, teachers faces the challenges of how they bring their students from point A, what they currently know, to point B, the learning goals of the course. Depending on the complexity of the subject or course, the travel from point A to point B can be challenging and unpredictable. For teachers to succeed in their goal to ultimately bring the students to point B, they need to acquire new knowledge and skills and change their approach to thinking and learning. Knowledge and skill in themselves do not guarantee understanding because people can acquire knowledge and routine without understanding their basis or when to use them. In short, we must teach for understanding in order to realize the long-term payoffs of education. How can students learn with understanding? To direct it to the point, the learners must spend the larger part of their time with activities that ask them to generalize, find new examples, carry out applications, and work through other understanding performances. And they must also do so in a thoughtful way and with appropriate feedback so that they can help them perform much better. How can we teach for understanding? What would be our ways? Teaching for understanding is not simply another way of teaching, just as manageable as the usual lecture exercise test method. It involves genuinely more intricate classroom choreography. To elaborate, here are 6 priorities for teachers who teach for understanding. First, make learning a long-term, thinking-centered process. Teaching is less about what the teacher does than about what the teacher gets the students to do. In other terms, it is students-centered. They must arrange for the students to think with about the ideas they are learning for an extended period of time so that they can learn their way around the topic. Number 2, provide for rich ongoing assessment. To learn effectively, students need criteria, feedback, and opportunities for reflection from the beginning of any sequence of instruction. These are important functions that need to be honored in many contexts. It is emphasized that students need criteria, feedback, and opportunities for reflection in order to learn performances of understanding well. Number 3, support learning with powerful representations. The teacher teaching for understanding needs to add more imagistic, intuitive, and evocative representations to support students' understanding performances. Yes, it should be, and besides supplying powerful representations, teachers can often ask students to construct their own representations. Number 4, pay heed to developmental factors. The theory devised by the seminal developmental psychologist Jean Piaget averred that children's understanding was limited by the general schemata they had evolved. What is our views on this statement? Teachers teaching for understanding do well to bear in mind the factors like complexity, but without rigid conceptions of what students can and cannot learn at certain ages. Number 5, induct students into the discipline. Analysis of understanding emphasizes that concepts and principles in a discipline are not understood in isolation. What does it mean? Grasping what concept or principles means depends on considerable part or on recognizing how it functions within the disciplines. Number 6, teach for transfer. If we want transfer of learning from students, and we certainly do, because we want them to be putting to work in diverse settings the understanding they acquired, we need to teach explicitly for transfer, helping students to make the connections they otherwise might not make, and helping them to cultivate mental habits of connection making. That was according to Brown, 1989, Perkins and Salomon, 1988, Salomon and Perkins, 1989 studies. Teaching for transfer is an agenda closely allied in teaching for understanding because it asks the learner to go beyond the information given, tackling some tasks and etc. That reaches farther than anything in books or lectures. Six facets of understanding. There are facets of understanding, namely: number one, explanation; number two, interpretation; number three, application; number four, perspective; number five, empathy; and number six is self-knowledge. The six facets assured teachers that if the students can perform or demonstrate any of these facets, then they assume that students understand. I know these six facets is very common to us or very self-explanatory. Explanation. It is defined as the act or process of making something clear or easy to understand, and the act of telling, showing, or being the reason for a cause of something. Interpretation. It is the act or result of explaining or interpreting something the way something is understood. Application. It is the action of putting something into operation. Perspective. It is a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something or a point of view. Next, next is empathy. It is defined as the feeling that you understand and share another person's experiences and emotions. And last is self-knowledge. It is defined as understanding oneself or one's own motives or character. Learning with understanding means that the learners spend more time in activities that require them to generalize, cite new examples, and carry them out through applications and in other understanding performances, as I have discussed earlier, according to the study of Perkins, 1993. This means that they want students to understand what they are learning, not just to know about it. David Perkins. Who is David Perkins? David Perkins is co-director of Harvard Project Zero, a research center for cognitive development, and senior research associate at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. His most recent book is Smart Schools: From Training Memories to Educating Minds, the Free Press of 1992. That would be the end of my lesson. Thank you for listening.